My child, a forgotten document has returned. A name hidden for years has suddenly resurfaced. And that name is yours. What happens next will change everything. Listen carefully, because this message is not arriving by accident. There are moments in life when events appear ordinary on the surface, yet beneath them lies a truth so powerful that it can alter the direction of countless lives. Today is one of those moments. Somewhere, hidden beneath years of silence, dust, misunderstandings, and unanswered questions, a marriage document that was believed to be lost forever has suddenly reappeared. No one expected to see it again. No one believed it still existed. Time had buried it. Circumstances had erased it from memory. Those who once knew about it assumed it would never be found. Yet against all odds, it has returned, and when the document was opened, when trembling hands carefully unfolded the aging paper, when anxious eyes searched through the faded words, a shocking discovery was made. Your name was there. At first, nobody could believe what they were seeing. They checked once. Then twice. Then again and again. Surely there had to be some mistake. Surely years of confusion had caused someone to misread the writing. Yet every examination led to the same conclusion. Every attempt to deny the truth only made the truth clearer. Your name was written exactly where it was meant to be, standing silently among details that should have remained hidden forever. The room grew quiet. Conversations stopped. Hearts began racing. People who once spoke confidently suddenly found themselves without words. Because the appearance of your name was not a small detail. It was the missing piece of a story that many people had spent years trying to understand. Don't skip. Long before this document resurfaced, there were whispers. Small clues appeared from time to time. Strange coincidences connected people who should never have been connected. Certain family members carried secrets they never explained. Certain conversations ended abruptly whenever specific subjects were mentioned. At the time, nobody understood why. Those moments seemed random, meaningless, easy to ignore. But now, with this document back in view, every forgotten clue begins to make sense. Think about all the strange situations you have experienced. The unexpected encounters. The moments when people seemed unusually interested in your life. The times when doors closed without explanation, only for other doors to open in ways you never expected. You may have wondered why certain events unfolded exactly as they did. You may have questioned why some relationships felt strangely familiar, as though an invisible thread connected you to people you had never truly met before. What if those feelings were never imagination? What if they were echoes of a story that began long before you realized it existed? The document tells a story that stretches across years, perhaps even generations. Its pages contain more than signatures and dates. They contain evidence. Evidence of promises. Evidence of intentions. Evidence of decisions that changed the paths of multiple lives. The people who first created this document could never have predicted the impact it would eventually have. They believed their actions would remain confined to their own time. They believed future generations would never know the details. Yet truth has a remarkable way of surviving. Even when buried. Even when forgotten. even when everyone assumes it has disappeared forever. The person who discovered the document almost overlooked it. It was hidden among old belongings, tucked away in a place that had not been touched for years. Boxes were being moved. Shelves were being cleared. Forgotten items were being sorted. It should have been an ordinary day. Yet fate had other plans. Among countless pieces of paper, among records that seemed unimportant, one folder stood out. Something about it felt different. Something compelled the person to open it. And the moment they did, everything changed. At first they only glanced at the pages. Then they froze. Their expression shifted instantly. Curiosity became shock. Shock became disbelief. And disbelief quickly transformed into urgency. They knew what they had found. More importantly, they knew what it could mean. Within hours, word began spreading among those closest to the secret. Calls were made. Messages were sent. Meetings were arranged. People who had not spoken in years suddenly found themselves drawn into the same conversation. Don't skip. One family member insisted the document had to be fake. Another argued it was genuine. Some wanted to reveal everything immediately. Others desperately wanted the document hidden again. Old tensions resurfaced. Old fears returned. Questions that had been avoided for years suddenly demanded answers. Why had the document disappeared in the first place? Who had hidden it? Who benefited from keeping it secret? And most importantly, why was your name connected to it? The deeper people looked, the more unsettling the answers became. Every explanation uncovered another mystery. Every fact revealed another layer of hidden history. The story surrounding the document was far more complicated than anyone imagined. It involved decisions made under pressure, relationships influenced by fear, promises that were never fully honored, and emotions that never truly faded, no matter how much time passed. Some individuals began remembering details they had long forgotten. A conversation overheard decades earlier. A disagreement that suddenly seemed important. A warning that made no sense at the time. These memories returned with surprising clarity, as though the document itself was pulling hidden truths back into the light. Piece by piece, fragments of the past began aligning into a picture nobody expected to see. What frightened certain people most was not the existence of the document itself. It was the possibility that its return was happening now for a reason. Timing matters. Sometimes events occur exactly when they are meant to occur. Not earlier. Not later. Exactly when the truth can no longer remain hidden. The reappearance of this document has forced people to confront realities they spent years avoiding. And whether they like it or not, those realities are leading directly toward you. Somewhere, someone is already wondering how much you know. Someone is asking whether you have noticed the signs. Someone is questioning whether the pieces have started coming together in your mind. They understand the significance of your name appearing on those pages. They understand what it could mean for the future. And that understanding has made them nervous, because secrets survive only as long as silence protects them. And silence is beginning to break. The people involved are discovering that the past cannot remain buried forever. Every attempt to suppress the truth has only delayed its arrival. Now the truth is approaching with unstoppable momentum. The document is no longer hidden. The evidence is no longer forgotten. And your name is no longer absent from the story. What happens next will depend on choices that have yet to be made. Some people will choose honesty. Others will cling to denial. Some will welcome the truth. Others will fear it. But regardless of their reactions, the truth itself remains unchanged. The document exists. The names are written. The connections are real. And the consequences are already beginning to unfold. Don't skip. As more people learn about the discovery, emotions continue growing stronger. Curiosity mixes with anxiety. Hope mixes with fear. Certain individuals are desperately trying to predict what will happen when all the details finally become known. Yet no prediction feels certain. The situation has become larger than any one person can control. And perhaps the most remarkable part of all is this: the document was never supposed to return. It was meant to disappear forever. It was meant to become another forgotten piece of history. Yet somehow it survived. Somehow it waited. Somehow it found its way back into the hands of those who needed to see it. And somehow, after all these years, it still carried your name. The significance of that fact is only beginning to reveal itself. What seemed like a forgotten record may actually be the key to understanding events that have puzzled people for years. What seemed like an old piece of paper may actually hold the power to reshape relationships, reveal hidden intentions, and expose truths that nobody was prepared to face. The journey into that truth is just beginning. And the deeper people investigate, the more shocking the revelations become. Don't skip. Because the moment people believed they had finally uncovered the biggest secret hidden inside the document, an even deeper mystery emerged. The paper itself was shocking enough, but what happened after its discovery was what truly unsettled everyone involved. The more closely the document was examined, the more obvious it became that someone had gone to great lengths to make sure it would never be found. This was not a file that had simply been misplaced. It had been hidden deliberately. Protected deliberately. Forgotten deliberately. And that realization changed everything. For years, family members had accepted a version of events that now seemed incomplete. They believed they understood the past. They believed they knew why certain relationships ended, why certain people disappeared from one another's lives, and why certain conversations were never allowed to continue. But the reappearance of this marriage document was exposing cracks in that carefully constructed story. Every answer that people thought they possessed was beginning to fall apart. One elderly relative sat quietly as others argued about the meaning of the document. While voices rose around them, they remained silent. Their expression was distant, as though they were staring into a memory that nobody else could see. Eventually someone noticed the look on their face and asked a simple question. "What aren't you telling us?" The room fell silent. The relative hesitated. For a moment it seemed they might refuse to answer. Then they slowly lowered their eyes and admitted something nobody expected to hear. They had seen the document before. The confession hit the room like thunder. Immediately everyone began speaking at once. Questions came from every direction. When had they seen it? Why had they never mentioned it? What did they know? How much had been hidden all these years? The relative struggled to answer. Not because they wanted to keep secrets anymore, but because the memories themselves were painful. The story they began sharing painted a picture far more complicated than anyone had imagined. Decades earlier, tensions between several families had reached a breaking point. Decisions were being made behind closed doors. Promises were exchanged. Plans were discussed. Certain individuals believed they were protecting the people they loved. Others believed they were protecting themselves. The result was a chain of choices that would echo through years of silence. According to the relative, there had once been intense discussions about a future connection between two lives. A connection that many people supported and many others opposed. Emotions ran high. Pride became involved. Old grudges influenced decisions. Fear began shaping actions. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, your name entered conversations that were never supposed to leave private rooms. Don't skip. At first nobody understood how that could be possible. Your name. Years before anyone expected. Years before circumstances should have allowed it. It sounded impossible, yet the relative insisted it was true. There had been discussions. There had been plans. There had been hopes. And there had been resistance. Some people had welcomed the possibility. Others had fought against it with everything they had. The disagreements became so intense that relationships within entire families began deteriorating. Arguments erupted. Trust was broken. Alliances shifted. Eventually a decision was made. A decision so controversial that several people agreed it would be safer if certain records simply disappeared. The relative's voice trembled as they described that period of time. Nobody wanted the truth to survive. Nobody wanted future generations asking questions. Nobody wanted old wounds reopened. So the document was hidden. Not destroyed. Hidden. That distinction mattered. Because destruction would have erased the evidence forever. Hiding it meant that somewhere, deep down, at least one person hoped the truth would eventually return. That possibility sent chills through everyone listening. If someone chose to hide the document instead of destroying it, then perhaps they wanted future events to unfold exactly as they are unfolding now. Perhaps they believed the truth deserved another chance. Perhaps they believed the story was unfinished. And perhaps they believed your role in that story would become important someday. The room grew quieter with every passing minute. People exchanged nervous glances. The implications were becoming impossible to ignore. The document was not just a forgotten record. It was a message from the past. A message that had somehow survived decades of silence. A message that was now demanding to be heard. As investigators, relatives, and curious family members continued examining the paperwork, another discovery emerged. Tucked behind the main document was an additional sheet that nobody had noticed during the initial inspection. Its edges were worn. Its writing was faded. But it was still readable. Barely. The moment the page was unfolded, everyone leaned closer. A handwritten note covered most of the paper. Nobody recognized the handwriting immediately. Yet the words themselves carried enormous weight. The note referred to promises. It referred to future generations. It referred to decisions being made out of necessity rather than desire. And then, near the bottom of the page, there was a sentence that caused several people to gasp. It mentioned a name. Your name. Not as an accident. Not as a coincidence. Not as an afterthought. The note specifically referenced you. The room erupted into confusion. How could that be possible? How could an old handwritten message contain information that seemed connected to events happening now? Some insisted there had to be another explanation. Others argued that the evidence spoke for itself. No matter which side people took, one fact remained impossible to deny. Your name appeared more than once. And each appearance seemed intentional. Don't skip. As the days passed, rumors began spreading beyond the immediate family. Friends heard fragments of the story. Distant relatives became curious. Individuals who had not been involved for years suddenly started making phone calls. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted access to the document. Everyone wanted to know what it meant. The increased attention created new problems. Some family members wanted complete transparency. Others wanted everything locked away again. Arguments intensified. Accusations followed. Old resentments resurfaced. People who had spent years pretending the past no longer mattered suddenly found themselves trapped by memories they could not escape. One particularly emotional conversation ended with a statement nobody could forget. If this document had appeared 10 years earlier, everything would have been different. The sentence hung in the air. Nobody responded immediately. Because deep down, everyone suspected it might be true. Timing changes lives. A truth revealed too early can be ignored. A truth revealed too late can become a regret. But a truth revealed at exactly the right moment can transform everything. And increasingly, people were beginning to wonder whether this was that moment. The person who originally discovered the document felt the pressure more than anyone. Journal after journal, box after box, they continued searching through forgotten belongings, hoping to uncover additional clues. What they found exceeded all expectations. More records existed. Not many. But enough. Small pieces of correspondence. Fragments of letters. Notes written in haste. Documents partially damaged by age. Individually they seemed insignificant. Together they painted a picture that became harder and harder to dismiss. The same themes appeared repeatedly. Promises. Separation. Protection. Sacrifice. And your name. Again and again. Not everywhere. Not constantly. But often enough to suggest a deliberate pattern. Whoever created these records wanted future readers to notice that connection. The question was why? Why preserve your name? Why protect those references? Why allow evidence to survive when so many other details vanished? Nobody had a convincing answer. And that uncertainty became the source of endless speculation. Late one evening, after another exhausting day of reviewing documents, a younger family member made an observation that nobody else had considered. What if the document wasn't hidden from us? Everyone looked up. The room became silent. The young relative continued. What if it was hidden for us? The idea sounded strange at first. Yet the longer people thought about it, the more sense it seemed to make. Perhaps the document had not been concealed to bury the truth. Perhaps it had been concealed to protect the truth until the right time arrived. Perhaps someone understood that circumstances were not ready decades ago. Perhaps someone believed future generations would be better equipped to understand what had happened. Perhaps someone believed that eventually, when the moment was right, the document would reappear. And if that was true, then its return was never an accident. Its return was part of the plan. The realization sent a wave of emotion through everyone present. Because if the document had been waiting all these years for the right moment to emerge, then the appearance of your name carried even greater significance than anyone imagined. The story was no longer about a lost marriage record. The story was about destiny colliding with truth. It was about promises surviving time. It was about secrets refusing to stay buried. And most importantly, it was about a mystery that was still far from solved. Because hidden among the remaining papers was one final clue. A clue that nobody had fully understood yet. A clue connected to a sealed envelope that had never been opened. A sealed envelope that carried a date. A date that changed everything the moment people realized what it meant.